A reading from Dueteronomy. See, I have set before you today life and prosperity, death and adversity. If you obey the commandments of the Lord your God that I am commanding you today, by loving the Lord your God and walking in his ways, and observing his commandments, decrees, and ordinances, then you shall live and become numerous, and the Lord your God will bless you in the land that you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and do not hear, but are led astray to bow down to other gods and serve them, I declare to you today that you shall certainly perish. You shall not live long in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. I call heaven and earth to witness against you today that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life so that you and your descendants may live, loving the Lord your God, obeying him and holding fast to him. For that means life to you and the length of days, so that you may live in the land that the Lord swore to give to your ancestors, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. The word of the Lord. A gospel reading from the 14th chapter of Luke. Now large crowds were traveling with Jesus, and he turned and said to them, "Whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross and follow me cannot be my disciple. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost, to see whether he has enough to complete it? Otherwise, when he has laid a foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it will begin to ridicule him, saying, 'This fellow began to build and was not able to finish.' Or what king, going out to wage war against another king, will not sit down first and consider whether he is able to, with 10,000, to oppose the one who comes against him with 20,000? If he cannot, while the other is still far away, he sends a delegation and asks for the terms of peace. So therefore, none of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all of your possessions." The gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Grace and peace to you, my friends in Christ. Whoever comes to me and doesn't hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, even life itself, cannot be my disciple. Wait, what? Am I missing something? Is that real? Did Jesus actually say that? Is that actually Jesus said that? My Jesus said that? Our Jesus said that? Now, I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but I kind of hate what it implies in this passage. I kind of hate that if this is exactly what we're supposed to do, it just doesn't quite add up to me. Professor Trey Clark realized that we might be thrown off a little bit too, and so he suggests 3 different ways to view this. There might be different ways to interpret this. First is to reject a literal interpretation of that verse, of hating all of the people that we actually love, right? So he's saying, no, we don't actually do that. A discipleship, our discipleship would be a direct contradiction of a life filled with love. And so often Jesus is telling his disciples, love your neighbors, to love one another as I've loved you. And so what Clark would say is Jesus is not saying hate those that you love. It comes in direct contradiction of what he would say. So his second interpretation would be, well, hate is hyperbole. It's a big time exaggeration. It's an over-the-top bit of instruction. Have you ever had a coach who demanded 110% of you? right? You can't give more than 100%. How can you give 110%? So his example would be Jesus is setting up an extreme example of how much that we have to commit to our discipleship. But another unique option is the third one. It's to consider the word that we translate as hate as actually meaning loves less. So you're actually loving less is it's a smaller version. Hate doesn't actually mean hate. A good example of this was he was talking about Jacob in the Old Testament marries Rachel, and then his uncle Laban is tricking him, and he actually marries Leah first. He doesn't hate Leah, but he loves her less. He loves Rachel more than Leah. It's one of those math problem things. If you just got to trust me on, it doesn't really mean hate. Now that my oldest daughter is at the University of Wisconsin, I think I've had a bit of a change of heart. I still love the Gophers, and I guess now I love the Badgers too. I just love the Badgers less. Okay? Now I've got this machine that's going to make you all forget this picture ever existed, okay? You could also say I love this passage less than almost every other story about Jesus. Another interpretation comes from Eugene Peterson. Anyone who comes to me but refuses to let go of father, mother, spouse, children, brothers, and sisters, yes, even oneself, can't be my disciple. So refusing to let go definitely has a different feel than hate, doesn't it? I feel like following Jesus, it really is about letting go of a lot of our old ways and actually moving towards that new life that Jesus promises. There's a lot of things that prevent us from fully committing to our faith. We find excuses all the time. We give in to temptation. We can't stop putting ourselves and our own ambitions first. We often find that when we're honest with ourselves, we know that God is not our first priority. And that happens every time we make a decision and in our waking thoughts. In simplest terms, I think it really comes down to we just really love to sin. We feel like it's better to do this. Sometimes sin is just being turned away from God, believing that we know better, that what Jesus is trying to convey is something that we've rejected. In many ways, what Jesus wants from us is to now be turned towards him, to be focused on him, to put Christ first, and then everything else will fall into place. Jesus is drawn to the most vulnerable people in society, right? This is how Jesus operates. He's out there and he knows that there's plenty of people who have disregard for the humanity of our neighbors. People who sit right next to us, who are hurting, who are suffering. Every time Jesus is questioned about loving your neighbor, the person asking the question is trying to justify why they haven't. Every time it happens, Jesus is like, but have you really thought about how you're actually treating this human right next to you? Jesus speaks into that. He says, you want to follow me? I'm not going to promise it's easy. Because you want to follow me, any system that continues to oppress or marginalize humans needs to be confronted. You need to speak to it. Connection and attachment to the comforts of our lives might prevent us from saying the truth. It's almost as if Jesus is asking, folks, are you all in? Like, are you really willing to do this? Now, when he's talking, boy, who wouldn't be drawn to this? Why wouldn't we want to follow Jesus when everything else in life might feel like there's pain and suffering? He's an alternative that feels exciting and new, yet mixed in all of these stories, there's the reality and the foreshadowing that suffering really does hurt. There's a challenge that's yet to come. Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem, and he knows what happens there. He knows that the crosses lining the way into town are for those who speak out. But this does not deter Jesus. He doesn't get quiet. It leads him to invite others onto that journey with him. Take up our crosses. Follow Jesus to Jerusalem. We might leave behind the things that have given us comfort. We might leave behind the things that don't point us to God. But if we're with Christ, that's really all that matters. Oftentimes, I have heard this passage called the cost of discipleship, as if it's like a really boy, do you really want to do this? Is this really something that you would be willing to do? Like, to be a follower of Jesus, it's really costly. It hurts. It's painful. And maybe that's the point. How many of you here have ever set a goal? Hey, I want to do something. Maybe you've got an aspiration. Maybe you want to do something, all right? What do? To accomplish the goal, you set the goal, you do the work, but then life never goes as planned, so you adjust as needed. Think about a goal that you have set in the past. Something that was really important to you, something that it could even be something that you're working towards currently. Maybe this is a goal that's in the classroom, or if at work, something that you're striving for. It could be a personal goal, like going to the gym or something related to your health. It could be a goal for a team, like we as a team want to be able to reach this certain point. We want to be able to get there. And you know that sometimes that means there's multiple people working together towards that goal. Now, the work it takes to accomplish that goal, it shouldn't be easy. The to-do list to accomplish that goal shouldn't just be, I woke up today, yay! Like, there are certain things that we know that we have to do, and maybe, just maybe, waking up is the hardest part. But as we think about the things that we do, there's going to be sacrifice. There's going to be vulnerability. Sometimes things don't always happen the way that we expect them to. But we got to remember, is it worth fighting for? Is it worth continuing towards the goal? Now, a few weeks ago, those kids that were up here, they came together for craft time with Laura, and they had a blast working in the kitchen. They set a very ambitious but attainable goal: make a bunch of delicious treats that they've never made before. So they had a large team gathered together. They made quite a few different treats. Everyone did not do the exact same thing. They took turns learning different tasks. They had responsibilities to make sure that they knew exactly what they were doing. They were able to follow instructions. They were able to say, at the end of the day, we want to be able to have a delicious treat, but not just the one that I'm making, but also the other 3 or 4 different treats that all of our friends are making. To be able to say at the end of the day, I want a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and we can share these treats. Did they accomplish that goal? Clearly. They knew that if they all worked together, they'd be all able to join and have a treat at the end. The cost of discipleship was worth it for them. The reward was delicious. A small example of what it means and how it matters to us. Our faith goals in our life are no different. Friends, we want a world where we don't have to be able to pray for what happened at Annunciation. This tragic event in our community. We don't want to have to live in that world, but we do. And so we set goals. We set goals so that our kids are safe, that we know that our kids can go to school and that they are protected. We set goals so that our neighbors are fed and that nobody sleeps outside. We set goals that this church, Faith Lutheran, is where you will find belonging and know that all are welcome, and legitimately all are welcome. Because we know that we're all in this together. We know that as we gather in this place, that each of us have unique and special gifts that we all contribute to making this world a better place. And it's not by all of us doing the exact same thing. But when we are combined and when we are inspired towards our goals, we can do amazing things for the sake of the gospel. Today, it's rally day. Today's this back to school day. And I could feel, the kids didn't necessarily give us a ton of energy this morning. They were still pretty lethargic. They're like, oh man, they're getting there. I guarantee after worship today, when we head out and we see them running around in the gym, we put a little bit of syrup in them after they have some pancakes. We're going to be inspired. We're also going to be tired, but we're going to be really inspired by them. These kids are incredible. I love the ways that they teach me about my faith. Some of the best examples that I have ever seen about faith in action come when I just open my eyes and my ears and listen and watch what kids are up to. Friends, it goes beyond the cost of discipleship. In reality, it's the gift of discipleship. Turn towards God. Stay in the present. Be mindful of the needs of others. Continue to be filled with that Christ-given hope that we collectively are called to meet the needs of our families, our community, and our world together. Amen.